Welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight we're trying to just understand the relationship between the Free SHS and the WASSCE that's taking place. My guests are Samuel Blakwa, Deputy Minister, former Deputy Minister of Education, MP for North Tong. We also have Honorable Yao Educhum, MP for Bosomtwi, Deputy Minister for Education, Substantive. And of course we have Kofi Asare, Africa Education Watch. Let me turn quickly to Rabiu Al-Hassan, who is with GhanaFact, because they intervened in the discussion on the social media platform. So, Rabiu, thank you. So, at GhanaFact, what facts were you trying to correct when you... Because some people cited you in Twitter posts about you clarifying the initial confusion, people like Bright Simmons. What specific points were you clarifying in your post earlier, Rabiu?
So basically, over the weekend, when we had the President and also the Deputy Minister of Education send out well wishes to the final year students, it looked like as part of the message, one particular thing stood out where people picked on it, and people were wondering what really the total number of final year students participating in the WASSCE is. So that was the claim we were looking at. What is the total number of final year students participating in WASSCE? Now, people pointed at the figures being put out by the Deputy Minister, which was in excess of 313,000. Then pointed fingers also at the President's well-wishing message. And it was also in excess of 313,000. But when you look at data on the website of WAEC, who are the organizers of the exams, it was in excess of 375,000. So there was a problem there. Then all of a sudden, we saw some changes happening on the President's Facebook page. Him changing the 313,000 to 375,000 in excess, basically. So we tried to put things into perspective, looking at how the changes were happening and what truly the number was. So that was what we wanted to do. But we also just didn't look at the President's Facebook page. We went to Twitter to go and check some of his posts there, and it was quite obvious that even though the President had made changes on his Facebook page, the team had not done the necessary changes on Twitter. So on Facebook, there was one number, on Twitter, there was another. And as my friend Kofi Asare mentioned, when you go back to some of the commentary by the President, specifically the update number 12, with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic and government's measures to deal with it, the President in update number 12, in page on paragraph 9 of the update number 12 basically mentions in excess of 313,000 SHS students participating in the exams. So the contradictory way and the contradictory numbers that were being put out didn't help the debate at all. So we tried to make the numbers quite evident for all to see, and I think it's well cut out where we've had the Deputy Minister come here to come and make it clear that it looked like they got it wrong. But let's not sweep these things under the carpet, because people rely on these data to do analysis.
Fantastic.
So it is important that we hold public officials to some high standards.
Thank you, Rabiu. I appreciate that. Let me come back to Honorable Educhum. Mr. Blakwa points out that there have been about 5 different figures you've given for the enrollment for 2017. He points out to the midterm budget figure of 350.
The 2018.
Yes, 2018 budget. And then he points out to 2 different figures in that budget. One is 353, one is 361. And then he points out to the midterm budget for the same year. And then he says that in then the President's own statement and the Minister's statement, there are discrepancies. Would you admit to these discrepancies, and why are we giving different figures for the enrollment? Is it that we are not sure what's going on?
I'll tell you this. There will be another time to talk about budgets. I'm in the Ministry of Education. Discrepancies can happen. I'm also going to go back and look at the NDC as a budget statement that they put out the last 8 years when they were in government and see there's no discrepancy. That is not to say that discrepancy is important. I'm just saying that he knows. He was at the Ministry of Education. What I go by, and the most definitive data that I use, is the Education Management Information System, which other researchers have access to, and they use, a number of NGOs have access to the EMIS, and they use it on a regular basis when you are sending data out for any international ranking, anything. EMIS is the most definitive data that is used out there. And the EMIS data on enrollment is there, it's public information. You can get it anytime that you want. Yeah, so there will be another time to talk about budget inconsistencies, but if you put out data on student enrollment in this great country called Ghana, you are using WASSCE as the basis. There's something to be said about that, and that is what I came here to talk about. That if we are going to use WASSCE, then don't forget that you have TVET students close to 20,000 who don't do WASSCE.
Fair enough, Honorable.
Who don't do WASSCE.
That's fair.
So bottom line is this: let's look at those things, and then yes, you are making a case. You are citing from documents. I'm not disputing that.
No problem.
I haven't taken a look at those documents, but let's talk about the substantive issue that you put to Twitter in terms of the enrollment that you are using WASSCE for as a proxy. And I think we all have to come to that understanding that WASSCE is not definite.
But if you pardon me to use WASSCE for a question, so we have 375,000 WASSCE candidates this year. Obviously more than the candidates who took the exam last year. Some people feel that with all the free SHS noise that was made, and the fact that we're even having to deal with new numbers, the increase in the enrollment or the increase in the candidates is not enough to merit the pomp and pageantry that characterize the policy. What would be your comment to that?
Yeah. Oh, let me tell you, you want to compare apples and apples and not apples and oranges. Unless you go to 2019 and you're able to deflate and dissect 2019 and look at how many students were repeat students, you cannot compare 2019 against 2020 based on WASSCE, because if you go to the EMIS data, the number of students that enrolled in 2016 who graduated in 2019 was 285,450, and including private students, it was 303,856. How the 303,856 when you take into account attrition? In education, attrition is very important. My brother Asari was talking about that. You can't start your school year 3 years ago with 303,856, and when they are graduating, all of a sudden they become 346,098, and not look for your repeat students if you want to compare between 2019 and 2020, because in 2020 they could not repeat. There were no repeaters. In 2019 there were repeaters. In 2018 WASSCE there were repeaters. So if you want to compare 2020 and 2019, then go back to 2016 and look at how many students started and tell yourself, can I begin with 303,856 and somehow, even with attrition, still come up with 346? These are things that we all need to, nobody's judging here. We have to look into it.
No. Sorry, we are losing you.
Become
right.
At the time of graduation time, we come out and we'll all be fine.
Let's pause there. What's your comment to that?
So my good brother should acknowledge that what you submit to the Ministry of Finance, which eventually becomes the basis upon which resources are expended, is very, very important. I'm surprised that the minister says he has not averted his mind to all of these conflicting enrollment numbers all over the place. It's very, very important because it raises issues about accountability. Are we using scarce resources very well? Our oil funds, are we using it very well? Because all these numbers, it's not just when we say 396,000, you multiply that by some good cities. You multiply that by the number of textbooks, the number of uniforms. Even in this COVID-19 era, the number of face masks, the number of sanitizers, and all of that. So this is very, very important that you cannot dismiss that. That's one. Two, the WASSCE numbers are important. When you have ministers, you have the president fudging numbers, amending their Facebook posts, and they will not offer some reasonable explanation. It creates credibility challenges, and that is problematic. Number 3, he talks about the MS data. I am glad he went to MS, the Education Management Information System. MS data reveals that the NDC took gross enrollment ratio from 33.7% to 52.6%. 33.7%.
Which year?
To 52. In 2008, it was 33%. 33.7%. We took the gross enrollment ratio to 52.6%.
In which year?
By the time President Mahama was leaving office in 2016, in 8 years, the 8-year period.
So now you're adding mills to Mahama?
Yes, the mills Mahama.
But I thought initially you were breaking down.
Now, as we speak, the gross enrollment ratio after the implementation of free SHS is now at 62.6%. So, you see, as analysts, we should be asking ourselves, despite all of these resources, all the noise, the pomp and circumstance and all of that, we still have gross enrollment, and this is not net enrollment ratio. If you look at the net enrollment ratio, Bernard, you even weep.
Don't forget
that is about 29%.
The net enrollment ratio is a more useful measure than the gross.
It's a more useful measure
because the gross could include a lot of things which
but
are not
Ghana, because of people are starting schools at different ages and all of that, because the net enrollment ratio will look at the cohort 15 to 17 years.
So what is your net enrollment when you took over from Kufuor then? If you are using gross. Because you're saying that your gross, you moved from 30 to 57.
Yes. And
if we use the net, which the World Bank suggests is a more accurate reflection, will we have the same numbers?
We move the net enrollment ratio from 18% to 26.5%. Now, as we speak, it's 33.7%.
So everybody's gone up.
Yes.
I do have that map. For sake of time, I would have shown it. The World Bank document, you can show it if you guys have it.
Yeah, but Bernard, that should worry us.
Why?
Especially in Greater Accra. It tells you that.
So this is the gross. This is the gross.
It tells you that, look, it's not just free SHS which is the inhibiting factor. There are more. You will have thought that after all the razzmatazz with free SHS, we should be approaching 100%, even with GER. But we are nowhere near. Even 60,
but don't forget that it was the second cohort of free SHS that led to the double track. So the effect of free SHS, to analyze it in the first year, might also be premature.
Again, there are conflicting data all over the place. You can't be sure even what the numbers are. So look, this government should get its acts together.
Very clear. I'm just saying
we want to plan.
The double track started in the second cohort, not the first. So a lot of the confusion over free SHS and double track, we can start analyzing when the next year WASSCE people go. Because they actually were the people who created the number problem, not the first group.
But how can you analyze with this such flawed data? I mean, nothing is credible, nothing is reliable.
Kofi, what is the best measure of progress of a country? Mr. Blackwell is referring to both gross enrollment
and the net enrollment,
and throwing some figures out. What is the best way of measuring our success as a country when it comes to people who are going to school for secondary? Kofi, your sound is off. Put your sound.